Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang, a pretty acclaimed collection of science fiction slash fantasy short stories, one of which was the basis for a pretty acclaimed film as well. So, like I say, this book is pretty highly regarded. It is, I think, probably one of the most highly regarded collections of science fiction slash fantasy short fiction of recent memory. Even though as I'm given to understand it, a lot of these stories were published like in the 1990s, and then they were compiled into this book in the early 2000s. But since this book's publication, it has garnered a lot of acclaim, I think. And it's really kind of odd that it's taken me this long to read this book. I mean, this should have been like right up my alley. But yeah, I finally got around to it, and my expectations going into it were pretty high, once again, because of the level of adulation that this book seems to have accrued. But I must say, I personally was a little underwhelmed by it. Now, that's not to say that I disliked the book, but it just didn't really overawe me like I kind of was expecting it to, like I was hoping it would. The stories in this book really did not blow my mind quite like I, again, was kind of hoping they would. But yeah, the contents of Stories of Your Life and Others uh, are comprised of eight, I think, one, two, three, four, five, six, seven, eight. Yeah, eight short stories, or some of them might count as like novelettes, perhaps. And they are Tower of Babylon, which is a retelling of the Tower of Babel story from the Old Testament, set in a world where biblical cosmology is real, and it concerns the people constructing the Tower of Babel, or I guess in this context, the Tower of Babylon, and what they eventually find when they tunnel through the firmament. And then the story Understand, which is about a brain damaged man who is given an experimental drug to hopefully heal his damaged brain, but it also has the side effect of imbuing him with superhuman intelligence. And then the story Division by Zero, which is about a mathematician who discovers a proof which proves that mathematics is inconsistent, and her subsequent mental breakdown. And then the Story of Your Life, which is the basis for the film Arrival, with Amy Adams and Jeremy Renner. Again, pretty acclaimed movie. And then the story 72 Letters, which is kind of an alternate history story set during the 19th century, but it's a 19th century in which Kabbalah, like Hebrew mysticism, Hebrew magic, is like real. It's like practiced openly, and like we have animate golems that do manual labor. And then it's also discovered that the human race will go extinct in a very few generations, and so the characters have to use Kabbalah to like save humanity. That one was kind of wild. And then we have The Evolution of Human Science, which is an extremely brief piece. It's only like 2.5 to 3 pages, which takes the form of a fictitious article from some future publication where humanity has diverged evolutionarily into metahumans, which are like extremely advanced, and then like normal humans. And it concerns like the struggles of the normal humans to grasp the scientific advancements of the metahumans, because they're just on two different levels. Then we have Hell is the Absence of God, which is a story about a man who lives in a world where Christian mythology is like accepted fact, where angels routinely, openly visit the earth. And then this guy's wife is killed, and he struggles to like feel affection towards God because he wants to, in order to reunite with his dead wife in heaven after he dies, but he can't bring himself to love God anymore. And then it's kind of a twist on the Job story from the Bible. And then we have finally the story Liking What You See, a documentary. And that story is presented as like a transcript of a documentary covering this scientific procedure, which has been discovered in like a near future, which allows people not to see physical beauty, and the kind of repercussions that this has on society. So that those are the contents of Stories of Your Life and Others. So to talk about the technical qualities of this book, the writing I found very uninspired, and that's probably a big reason why I was kind of underwhelmed by this book. The writing is very workmanlike and pretty artless. Like, it's not inept, but there's very little remarkable about it. It's just relaying these stories in kind of the flattest, again, most uninspired fashion. And I wasn't really impressed by it. The writing kind of let me down because it was just so dry, just so, again, kind of uninspired. Now, on to the characters. There is scarcely any kind of character development in any of these stories, but I won't hold that against this book too much because that just really comes with the territory with short stories, right? I mean, it's very difficult to work in any real character depth in a short fiction format. It just doesn't usually permit such things. But yeah, still, the characters in this book were by and large extremely flat and with lacking any real depth. But as to like the actual plots of these stories, some of them captivated me, some more than others. Like, I guess what I was kind of hoping for out of this book was something in the vein of like Borges, right? Something like some kind of like hyper cerebral thought experiments presented in the form of like short fictional pieces that hit you, and just kind of you have to marvel at the ingenuity of the subject matter of the concept, right? And while there were moments approaching that in this book, by and large, this is a pretty far cry from like Borges level work. But I will, I suppose, like rank the stories in this book in ascending order of my preference, at least. So, like the story that I liked the least, that I guess I would rank in last place, would be The Evolution of Human Science. That was barely even what you could call like a story. Like, again, it's very, very short. It's by far the shortest thing in here. And there's just not much to it. It's just this fictional article from some fictional future publication where humanity, again, has diverged evolutionarily. And it has no characters. It's just not that interesting. There's just really not much to that. So, yeah, bringing up last place would be The Evolution of Human Science. And then in second to last place, I guess I would rank the story Division by Zero. And the reason why I would rank that story so low is because I think that story kind of surpasses what can be reasonably passed off with science fiction. Like, science fiction is meant to be imaginative, speculative. It's meant to be, far out to a degree. But in the story Division by Zero, one of the main character discovers a proof that mathematics is inconsistent, that like the rules of mathematics are not actually rules, that the math is not mathing anymore. And yeah, I think that's beyond what can be reasonably put forth in a science fiction story. Like, what I mean is, you can imagine any number of fictional scenarios, any number of possible worlds where fantastical crap happens, like, like in comic books, like, where Superman flies, or where we've like uh, colonized Mars, or, like stuff like Interstellar, where you go through the black hole and you go back in time, or stuff like that. You can imagine stuff like that, but you cannot imagine a world where 2 plus 2 does not equal 4. You can't do that. And then what Chang does in the story Division by Zero is he has this character discover this proof that math is inconsistent, but then he never shows any of that proof because he can't, because of course that's nonsense. I mean, mathematics is the most axiomatic field. Like, you can't contravene the rules of math, right? You can't even imagine such a scenario. So he has this character just like in the scene. There's a scene in the story where she writes down these formulas, but then like we're never told what these formulas are, of course, because they can't exist. It's just that was too far out. Like, that broke certain tenets of logic, which I think is a bit much even for science fiction. But after that, I would probably rank 72 Letters. That story was that's one of the longer ones in here, and that one, it just didn't really do much for me. Like, it was initially uh, kind of intriguing seeing this 19th century industrial revolution era England, where Hebrew mysticism, Kabbalah, and stuff like that is like real, and like it has an effect on the world, where you have like golem automatons doing manual labor and stuff. But it kind of it just kind of got boring after a time. It just that one really just didn't do it for me. It wasn't quite as thoughtful as some of the other stories in here. It was definitely one of the more fantastical stories. And yeah, it just didn't really hook me that much ultimately. Then after that, I think I would rank the story Hell is the Absence of God. That story is probably the most theologically thoughtful story in here. It's like, again, it's kind of a twist on the Job story from the Bible, and it kind of it's kind of like Job without the happy ending. It asks you to wrestle with the question, like, what if there is a God, and what if this God really does not care about justice or rightness, and has no like moral sense, and is like just kind of arbitrary, where bad things happen to good people, and there's really no ultimate just reward or punishment. It's kind of like that, and it definitely kind of leaves you thinking, and perhaps not in the most pleasant of ways. But yeah, and then after that, I think I would rank the story Understand. That was a very fast paced and interesting story, but the problem with that one is that it really does more, I think, than a short story can probably do well, because there was a lot happening in that story, and it was happening so fast, and again the characters are just so flat and depthless that it was lacking in certain key areas, such as character development. But and there's precious little like physical description. It's just like on to the next thing, on to the next thing. But that was kind of like a conspiracy thriller story in a way, and I liked like the overall premise of the story. I really did like that one. It's just that I think it was a little bit too thin, if you will. And then after that, I think I would probably rank uh, Tower of Babylon. That was an interesting story. Again, that kind of is a twist on the Tower of Babel story. And I really liked that because I liked the kind of the kind of reveal at the end of what is found once the firmament is penetrated, when then they reach quote unquote heaven. That I won't give it away, but that was a pretty good little twist. That was a pretty good little twist of an ending there. I think I really like that one. And then after that, I think I would rank Story of Your Life. And that's again the basis for the film Arrival. Even though there's kind of a lot that was changed from the story to the film adaptation, but Story of Your Life is probably the one that has the most in terms of like character development and character depth. Like the main character in that story, actually you kind of do invest a little bit in that story. And also I really like the notion of language having an effect on one's perception of time, and how the mastery of this alien language allows one to see, or to like remember the future as well as the past, and to see everything kind of simultaneously. That was a really neat kind of high concept premise, and I liked that. That was one of the best. And then I think finally, as the story in here that I enjoyed the most, I would actually rank the final story, Liking What You See, a documentary. That was probably the one that I got the most out of, because I really liked the manner of its presentation, how it is presented as this transcript of this documentary about this procedure that allows people not to recognize physical beauty, and the ramifications that this has on people and on like the operations of society. I really liked that, and what I liked so much about it is that the pros and cons, the views in favor of and against this procedure are presented very strongly in this story, and it really leaves you thinking. It honestly does. Like it leaves you thinking, like, what would you do in such a scenario? And also, it has a little bit of character development in it, to where certain of the characters speaking, you kind of do invest in just a teensy bit. So yeah, I think honestly that was the one that I liked the most. But yeah, overall, I didn't dislike Stories of Your Life and Others, but again, I just really wasn't overawed by it like I was expecting to be and hoping to be. So to rate this book, this collection, I think overall I would give this like a B minus. I think it does have some real like strong points in this, but it also has a lot of weaknesses, I think. But I am glad I read it, and again, I didn't actively dislike it. It just kind of left me feeling just kind of lukewarm, I guess. But once again, it has some good moments. It has some bad moments. So yeah, a B minus is what I'm feeling. So yeah, Stories of Your Life and Others by Ted Chiang. Have you read this book, this collection of short stories? If you have, let me know down in the comments what you thought, whether you have agreed or disagreed with anything I've said here today. And if you haven't read this, you might want to pick this up if you're into like adult oriented, like, thinking man type science fiction slash fantasy, because this is definitely in that category. But yeah, there's some quality stuff in here. It just wasn't quite to the level that I thought it would be. But you out there may still want to pick this up and give it a go yourself. And as always, if you have enjoyed anything you've seen or heard here today, remember to hit that like button and subscribe. I would really appreciate it. And until next time, peace.